Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Steven Out. We are back with another Batman 66 episode review, and today we will be reviewing the episode Give 'Em the Axe, the second part in the Riddler, in this Riddler two-parter. And without further ado, let's get on with the video. We pick up where we left off in the last episode. The Riddler is back and is planning to steal the lost treasure of the Incas by using a substance known as Riddler's using a substance known as super instant wax solvent, basically a device to use as a sort of explosion to get into Vault without really any noise. They've captured Batman and are lowering him into this wax, essentially planning to turn them into human wax sculptures. And of course, as this is happening, we jump into the opening credits quickly, and we get back to where we left off. Now the Riddler and his crew leave Batman to go further into the wax, as the smell is really starting to irritate them, and they begin to leave. Now, as soon as this happens, they go to another room where they look through the telescope to see them slowly go further and further into the wax. Moth has a look and is smitten, and this is annoying to Riddler, saying if she wants to, succeed in this criminal career, she needs to learn to control her emotions. As slowly as Batman's getting further into the wax, Batman uses his utility belt to reflect sunlight into a barrel of other chemicals, resulting in an explosion. Now, when the explosion happens, the Riddler looks in and finds that they have essentially been knocked out and are now laying down on the ground unconscious. Believing that he succeeded in killing Batman and seeing their dead bodies really, is filled with glee. He almost forgets about going after the lost treasure of the Incas and takes the moment and wants to call up Commissioner Gordon and leave behind a riddle. Molly then says, "What's the point?" And this is what I like about this. Riddler reveals that crime is no fun without riddles. I have you know that's the reason I got into this crime gang. So we come flat out explaining his motives for his crimes. It's for the joy of leaving clues. And he tells his guys to get in the van and drive away. And just as this is happening, he calls up Commissioner Gordon, tells Batman and Robin are dead, and leaves a riddle behind. What has 4 legs, runs day and night, but never gets anywhere? As soon as he leaves that riddle behind and almost hangs up the phone, Commissioner Gordon says, "Now you listen to me. If we find out you have anything to do with this, we'll track you down to the ends of the earth, and that's a solemn promise." Of course, the Riddler then hangs up and quickly gets in the van, and they all drive, to get the lost treasure of the Incas. We then cut back to find out that Batman and Robin aren't dead, but were simply knocked out by the explosion. As they make their way back to the Batmobile, they call up Commissioner Gordon, to explain, to explain everything. Commissioner Gordon is surprised and reveals that the Riddler said they were dead. He said that he's wrong, but we're back. And of course, Commissioner Gordon tells the riddle that the Riddlers gave him. What has 4 legs, runs day and night, but never gets anywhere? Batman says thanks, and we'll get right on it. Batman and Robin then spend time on the Batmobile trying to figure out what the answer to the riddle. They come with the conclusion that what runs day and night but never gets anywhere is a fountain. By 4 legs, they realize it must be an animal must be in the fountain. They come to the conclusion that it is the Lion Fountain outside the Gotham City Museum. They make their way there. As soon as this is happening, the Riddler and his crew are at the bottom of the museum, going through all this stuff to find the sarcophagus where the lost treasure of the Incas will be found. And I like in this scene where Frank Gorshin is just going all over the place, showing off all these torture devices to Moth, such as the Iron Mask, the stocks, the bath, and of course the Wheel of Death and the rack. And Frank Gorshin, just for me as Riddler, really just makes this scene so great, and I don't think any actor would be able to pull this off. As soon as that happens, he orders his goons to basically go around and look out, keep a lookout, and Batman and Robin arrive at the museum. They realize what the Riddler's trying to steal and find out that, that the sarcophagus must be the lost treasure of the Incas, and he must have learnt that from the old book. But there's a problem. It's locked in a sarcophagus, and if it's released and exposed to air, it will crumble to dust. So not only do they have to stop Riddler from stealing, but they have to also stop him for, destroying an archaeological find. They then finally see a window, but Batman's too big to fit through. So Robin goes in, seeing that he's small enough to fit, and he could come down and open the door. Batman is hesitant, but agrees. Robin then starts climbing up the window. As soon as he gets through the window, he gets through and gets into a fight with the Riddler's goons, only to lose. And he is brought before the Riddler, and Riddler is angered and shocked that Robin's still alive. And he asks, is Batman still alive? But Robin keeps up the charade, saying that Batman's dead and he's going to get him for it. Riddler, seeing no threat in Robin, orders his goons to tie him up to the rack, and if he doesn't fit, stretch him to size. And of course Moth says, oh, but don't hurt him. I'm like, what? Okay, I just want to pause here. The thing I just want to point out with Riddler is, why on earth does he have Moth? Moth is almost a complete nuisance, She clearly has a thing for Batman, and is almost too light-hearted for this crew. I will admit, she is a bit eye-rolling, but anyway, let's get back to the episode. Batman realizes that Robin isn't called in, and he gets into the Batmobile and drives to the back and rams the door open. But not before calling Commissioner Gordon to have Chief O'Hara bring some of his men to the Gotham Museum. And just as this is happening, Riddler and his goons have finally found the sarcophagus, and they fail to see the sign, "Do not open," on the sarcophagus. If it becomes exposed to air. Riddler then quickly gets out his universal wax solvent, puts it around the lock, prepares to light the match, and wishing it's too bad Batman's dead if you could only see him now. And just as that's happening, Batman is at the back, and the Bat Shadow, and using the Bat Shadow, being shown on Riddler and his crew. Riddler is furious that Batman is still alive, and, can't believe Robin's lied to him. But Batman says, a little white lie is excusable when dealing with the likes of you, you black-hearted scoundrel. Riddler then orders his men to fight, and a fight begins. For me, I think the Riddler and his crew are perhaps the most inept fighters in these two-pair episodes. They are just getting their asses kicked and Batman finding them single-handedly. And that scene where Riddler's showing like all these torture devices? Well, one by one, the crew gets locked up in these devices. Moth ends up falling into the bath and getting locked in. One of the crew gets locked in the stocks. One gets trapped in the iron mask. And Riddler gets knocked out. But not before Batman blows out the candle and prevents it from eating through the wax. Riddler then comes after Batman with a sword, only for Batman to subdue the Riddler and essentially almost torturing the guy, and then scares him to get locked in the wheel and spins him around. Batman, of course, quickly unhooks Robin, gets him out of the rack, and just as that happened, Chief O'Hara and the police all come in. And Chief O'Hara reveals that they went to the wrong museum, they went to the wax one, otherwise they would have been here sooner. Batman says anyone would have made that same mistake, but the Riddler and his crew are ready to be apprehended. Everyone gets locked up, everyone gets arrested and taken out, but just as Riddler's been taken away, he tells Batman he may have won the battle, but the war is far from over yet. But he's taken away. We then cut to where Bruce Wayne, Dick Grayson and Aunt Harriet are in the museum admiring the exhibit. The episode ends with saying that next week the dynamic duo will be battling with the Clown Prince of Crime, the Joker, yet again. Okay, Batman and Robin and Dick Grayson are just fine here. I like how Robin was loyal to Batman, like when he got captured, and played up the fact that Batman was still dead, giving him the element of surprise. I like how Robin showed a bit of initiative to go into that window, even though Batman was hesitant to let him go alone. This just shows us how much he really cares about Robin, and really you could see more of the father and son relationship. I also like how loyal Commissioner Gordon was here. Like, when he found out Batman and Robin was supposedly dead, how his first instinct was saying that they would track down Riddler to the ends of the earth no matter what. I like that the loyalty that Gordon still has for Batman. But Chief O'Hara, when your boss tells you to go to the museum, not the wax museum, no one would have made that mistake. But then again, you could easily argue, well, Riddler was there before, it would make sense, maybe, but it just seems so stupid. But no. And of course, the end scene when Aunt Harriet is with, Bruce and Dick at the museum. Oh, for me, Aunt Harriet is always a delight to have on screen. But guess who else is also a delight to have on screen? The Riddler, portrayed by the fantastic Frank Gorshin. For me, this is truly his most full-blown psychoticness. And even though I have problems with the plot, like how do you get a book and it leads you to the museum, it makes little to no sense when you could have just used the newspaper. Makes no sense. But for me, I like how he's determined to get this, to reach his goal. And we also get a bit more, more info into his background, as he reveals that that the riddle thing is literally the reason why he does crime. It's the whole reason he got into it. It drives him. Just like when his first outing where Robin said crime's no fun for him unless it means outwitting Batman and Robin, for him, crime's no fun without leaving riddles. That's the whole reason he got into the shtick. And for me, Frank Gorshin just looks the part. He is and for me, I think him being full-blown crazy and him to really cut loose with the role, with no boundaries, for me, I feel that this is a true example of him just cutting him loose and him going full out there. Interesting fact, in this two-part episode, he primarily wears his spandex suit. He doesn't wear like his, that, normal suit. He wears like that almost onesie suit throughout the whole two-parter, and never wears once his normal businessman suit, which I found to be quite which I found it interesting, but at the same time it made a bit more sense, because he was really, but there'll be no reason for him to wear that businessman suit, I guess. Give Him the Axe is another good two-parter in, following the Ring of Wax. Now, I will admit, this episode is not really fully top 10 worthy, I will admit. I will give it credit for Frank Gorshin's magnetic performance, and when he flat out comes saying, that crime is no fun without riddles, that's the whole reason I got into it. However, I will admit, the plot does kind of fall for me in some places, and I do find Molly to be annoying, but for me, Frank Gorshin's performance here just works so well for me. And for me, that's what I've always liked about his Riddler episodes. You may have a fault with the plot and some minor characters, but for me, having Frank Gorshin as the Riddler just ups that episode so much. And for me, that is really the best thing about Season 1. The Riddler always came back and made quite a amount of episodes. But we're not done with him this season. He still has a few more appearances. But we'll have to wait until that another appearance comes. And there we have it. That was Give Him the Axe. A really good episode. While it's fault in some of its plot, and Molly being essentially a nuisance and even annoying character, the Riddler's performance here, and for me, I think this is where truly Frank Gorshin really cut loose. Now, he was great in his first ever outings, but for here, I feel this is where his performance went all-time high. Join us next time when Batman and Robin face against the Clown Prince of Crime yet again. So until next time, tune in for the next episode in the Steven Hour. Same Steven time, the same Steven channel, and so long for now.